I'm Nikki Dore. I want to talk to you about dreams right now. Oh, my quiff looks very weird on camera. Anyway, looks better from the side. Dreams. Now, we sometimes only really value kind of physical communication when I mean verbal and written communication, but there's so much more communicative ways to express yourself, and we see this in art, we see this in movement. You think about gesticulation, can't even pronounce it today, but the way that we use our hands to convey messages. If you look at how sometimes with social media we don't get fully the message of what somebody's saying because it's in black and white. We don't see the smile in their eyes, we don't hear the laughter in their voice, so we might perhaps take it too seriously, and they were meaning it in a more light-hearted way. And that's why when we look at dreams as a form of communication, we'll probably put more of an emphasis in it. We'll understand how important it is. Now, what that dream is telling you really depends, first of all, on whether it's internal or external. And what do I mean by that? Well, I put them in the two categories like that because I think it's easier to understand, and that's where you can start interpreting it. So let's start with internal dreams. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about because dreams show us about our state of mind, our emotional state, our energetic state. Therefore, some people will say our spiritual state as well. Because of that, it gives us so much information about our well-being. It is us communicating to ourselves. So it's one part of us communicating to ourselves. And when we're asleep, we're more receptive. We're not consciously aware of what's going on, so therefore we allow more information to come through. If you think every day we pick up so much information, and only some of that, a fraction of that information do we have it in our awareness. Doesn't mean that it's not stored. And then in the background, the information is put together. So there's a wealth of information that we hold. And I always believe that we have all the information, we have all the answers to all the questions that we'll ever ask. But that's another story. So if we talk internal, our internal communication is ourselves telling ourselves about what our emotional state is, what our mental state is, how is our energy, what have we not fully comprehended that's really important to us. That last piece of the puzzle type information, that intuition that perhaps we don't always act on. It can also be our fears, because there are very strong dreams for fears. I mean, you think about the teeth falling out dream, which I used to get all the time, and you go up to the mirror the next day and you're tapping your teeth because it's so it worries you. You wake up with any dreams to do with anxiety or fear, you will feel very strong emotions in it, and you will feel fear and anxiety, and you'll wake up often feeling that, and not being quite aware of whether it was completely a dream. First off, it can be quite scary. They're the going up or down the stairs and never reaching a destination. There's falling and never completely falling, just completely free fall. And the zombie dream, which is always about control. So often around the new or full moons in Scorpio or Scorpio season, you would actually have that a lot. And there's a lot of, if you've got Scorpio planet, especially your moon or your sun in the 8th house, or your moon in the 8th house as well, moon in Scorpio, it will be harder sometimes for you to express that, and it could be easier to repress it. So that will come out when you are being in so much control. Which dreams are perfect for that. And there's lots of ways for those to come out. And then once you know about them, you can actually then go and work out what they mean. What's your subconscious telling you? What are you worried about? And especially when you're very much in control of your life and you like to be in control, it can be quite scary to acknowledge certain feelings. So that's why dreams are very good. They come up, we then get freaked out. But they're very good at, there's so many different methods of working through them. I always think that you should just write them down and try and get to the root. There's so many dream dictionaries out there that will help you work out what the symbolism of your dream is. And I'll go into dream interpretation in a while. I don't want to leave it too much of a long video. So internal is really about how are you doing? What do you need to take care of? And that's why I think they're the most important dreams, because they're always messages from yourself to yourself. And we are the most important people in our lives. So if something's wrong with us, we should be taking stock of that. I also, on a separate note, which I won't go into too much detail here, is I do feel that when we're talking about our guides, our personal guides that are with us throughout our lives, those are kind of internal to us as well. But that's something else I'll go into in another video. I will actually take a bit of more of a breather because I realise I'm going very quickly. I speak very quickly anyway, but I realise now I'm speaking much faster. I'm aware of the time. The external information, the communication that we get can be from our loved ones. As a medium, there's a lot of, I'm very aware of mind-to-mind communication, which is mental mediumship, physical mediumship. So that's communication usually with loved ones or entities that have not been incarnated as well. But there's also people. They can be mind-to-mind communication with people, which is a two-way communication. That's where I see telepathy come in, and that can be done consciously or unconsciously, and often if it's in dreams it's unconscious by one of the parties, so they're interacting but they might not be fully aware of that, which is very different from a one-way communication where you are receptive. So if you've got a moon in the 12th, we're in 12th house planets actually, but the moon is the most receptive. You've got an 8th house moon or even a 4th house moon, you will be more aware of the undercurrents of what's going on. And I think that it might feel like you're communicating with people, but actually you're just receiving information from them because you're very tuned in to the underbelly. And the more people suppress things, the more then you'll be able to feel it. And that's actually a very 12th house thing, but it's more receptive. So that's a one-way communication. You're receiving information like a satellite dish. And as I say, it can be by people who are living, and that can be quite confusing, but it doesn't mean they actually know what they're doing. It just means that they are thinking of you or feeling of you, or perhaps they wanted to say something. So you can get a lot of completion that perhaps, especially with particularly stubborn people who won't admit it in face-to-face, you can get that sense of closure and sense of completion by apologies and things like that. And can be entities, can be loved ones who passed over, it can be deities, it can be goddesses, all sorts. So when we're talking about external, it helps us to understand what priority we should put them in. And external is good, but remember that we should always be putting the internal ones. The internal communication should always be first. External, we need to understand where that's come from, who are they, and what are their purpose. So it's not saying that they're just entities that speak to us, but also, obviously we can get information from outside of ourselves. But we also have to remember that internal is always going to be the most important way. And so if we're getting messages externally that aren't marrying up to our internal, then we need to just perhaps take those with a pinch of salt, because our internal kind of compass is always the most important thing, our internal intuition. So when you're interpreting your dreams, just always first question, internal, external. And it will help you understand, is it internal and your subconscious trying to tell you something, or is it external and others trying to tell you? And obviously there's other levels of consciousness as well, so it's not just your subconscious, but that's just using that as an example. So when you go to do any dream interpretation, first thing is try not to move. The minimum amount of movement when you wake up to note your dreams means that you'll capture most of the information. So make sure that you have a dream journal by your bed. Use your phone, just you can do note taking or anything like that. There's voice notes or something like that they call them. and you can actually just record that without moving too much. As soon as you move, you will start to lose part of your dreams. Now we do have to remember there is a part of your dreams, even though they're internal, that aren't that important to you. Those are the unpacking dreams. So they're very fragmented dreams. They're very much bits, mishmashes of stuff that's happened over the last few days that we're unpacking. Now, they aren't hugely important. We don't really need to do something, and they will fade very quickly. In fact, it's very often you feel like you've had a dream, but you don't know what that dream is about. Don't worry about those. It's the ones that you have the emotions that attached, you wake up, or you have a feeling, because remember, emotions and feelings aren't exactly the same thing. So when you have that, you wake up with a strong emotion or a strong feeling, then that's important. And it will be often a very different texture of your dream. It will be much more vivid, and it'll be much more memorable. But when you're writing it down, try and write it straight away. Also, just try and put it in bullet points. Don't try and make a story, because if we make a story, we'll put everything together. Like often in dreams, there is a lack of continuity. If this was a movie, it would be one of the panned movies, because there'd be so much movie mistakes, because often you're in one place with one outfit talking to one person, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're in some other place looking completely different, speaking to different people, or in different situations. So don't write it as a story. Write it bullet points, words, pictures. Because actually, if you can draw, unlike me, it's really good to be able to put a pictorial diagram down. And note that if you have repeating dreams, they're important. They can be repeating dreams if you're anxious or fearful, but they also can be really good for helping us understand the full message, because it will come to us in multiple different ways. So you'll have one dream that kind of morphs through the week or over a period of time, and that can actually help us. It can help us understand how our emotional state has changed, our mental state, or our energetic state, but also it can just give us information about I said that you can have your, information that we've collected that can kind of create a big picture, and sometimes it's filtered to us in a kind of piecemeal way, because sometimes you don't want to know everything in one go. It just brings it up until you're ready. You'll have the same dream, but something will be different. Something will change each time, but actually you'll find that at the end of it, if you look back, you'll see the complete picture, which is why it's really important to try and journal your dreams, because they will hold lots of information. If you go back through your journal, you'll be able to piece through bits and pieces, which is really important for, especially if you do any psychic work, any intuitive work, you're very sensitive, because it's really good in your development. And when I say development, I think we're all developing in some way. So it's always good to journal and go back to your dreams, and then go, okay, let's see how my dreams have changed, especially if they're dreams talking about control, like zombies, dreams talking about fear. But I'll use the example of the teeth dream, which I said I used to get a lot. Now, the tooth falling out dream is about anxiety, and it's also about being in front of an audience, because if you don't have teeth, you're very self-conscious. Even if you've got one missing, or state of your teeth, they're very, it's something people notice. So it's something about being visible. Now, I used to have those, and then I would just freak out. And then gradually over time, working on it, now if I have a tooth dream, I know I'm a little bit anxious about something, but I can also, it's not so worrying, because actually I can, in the dream, work my way through it. Perhaps I'll do another video about that on another time, but it's just really important to work with our dreams that are very vivid, because we can waste a lot of time wondering what's going to happen, or thinking to ourselves, worrying ourselves. And we wake up with these dreams that are really can be quite horrible, especially if they're subconscious dreams. And they can we can either ignore them or we can work with them. And if you do any self-care, it's really important that you can use this. It's a really good resource. I say it's really important. A lot of people don't use it. I find it as one of the most important resources. That's there with you, and it's there without needing cards or without needing astrology or any other divination method. It is already there for you, and the symbols. And you'll find that if you have a say an external prophetic dream, you'll often find that those symbols will show themselves up in your waking life too, and that will go, oh, I had that dream and that said that. And it is always a bit like a treasure hunt when you're understanding messages, especially from spirit, because they kind of give you these bits and pieces, and it's not the idea that they always give you a complete message in one go. It's not always the case, and it's always a little bit like a treasure hunt where you get to find a symbol and then you have to understand how that works in everything else. If you're trying to decipher your dreams, perhaps you're looking at the symbology and you're not really sure what it means, you can with astrology always look at what happened to your moon, or what was happening as transits from the moon, because the moon is receptive, the most receptive planet, even though it's a luminary. So look at what's happening during the transits, during the night, or just before you go to sleep. You can actually just see. It's very interesting to pick that out. I also sometimes do, from when I wake up, I don't do a horary, but I just do a chart of the event if I know that I've only just had the dream, because then I can kind of see, okay, well, the ascendant, and I don't use it in any depth. I just go, okay, the ascendant's here, it means this, or something will stand out from the chart, and you go backwards through that. So you can use astrology that way. If you're looking at dreams using a tarot or Lenormand or oracle cards, just be careful that you want to look for repeating themes. Don't get caught up in the themes in the card and confuse those with the dreams, because and don't pull too many cards. I like a 3 spread. I like about, meaning, do. Which is for dreams. If I do that, so what is the dream about? What does it mean? What do I need to do? And that way, I usually use an oracle for it, that I have by my bed. It's currently the Halloween oracle because it's that time of year, but it gives me a really quick one of going, okay, I that confirms what I think it was. And then it works together. But just don't confuse yourself by using too many tools, when actually dreams itself are a bit like a divination tool, because they work on symbols. So thank you. Sorry I rambled a little bit through that. I am going to do a little bit more, some more videos, hopefully be a bit more visible in the next few months. And look forward to doing my next cycle of videos.